Why do bad things happen to good people? Sometimes you've asked this question from yourself. I'm a good person. I help everyone. I don't hurt anyone. I can see myself as a good person. But still, why all these bad things? Why all these painful things, sufferings happen to my life? Why life always keep testing me always? Well, these questions we've asked most of the times in our life, right? Do you know how Buddha saw this? In the night of his enlightenment, the first thing that he realized was that life is consist of suffering. Suffering is a part of everyone's life, right? So Buddha did not say suffering as a part of good people's life or a bad people's life. Buddha saw that suffering was universal, right? But when we face adversities in life, when we face these realities like painful situations in our life, we think that the only person who is going through this suffering, the only person that is going through this difficulty is only me. That is how everyone feels. Not to lie, sometimes I feel that. But what Buddha teaches us to see it as is to see the suffering as a universal thing. I'll tell you a story. A young mother lost her baby. But she loved her baby so much that she refused to accept her baby's death. What she did? She took her baby and ran from one village to another, one city to another, finding a doctor to cure her baby. But no one could bring a dead person back to life. Finally, she met the Buddha. The Buddha said, "Okay, I will cure your baby. But we need one medicine to do this. Can you bring it? Go and bring a handful of mustard from a family that no one has ever died." So the mother was so much happy. She thought that she could find this easily. So she ran to the village and went to the first house that she found and asked, "Do you have a handful of mustard that I can get?" Then when the householder was about to give the handful of mustard, she said, "Has anyone died in your family?" Then they said, "Oh, my uncle died last year." Then she said, "I don't want your mustard." She went to the next house and she got the same answer. Someone had died. She went to the other one. She went from one house to another and she went through the whole village. The only word that she heard was, "Someone died." Death. Then she understood, okay, death is not only for me. Death was something that I always heard in this journey. Maybe my child is dead. So she made her heart strong enough to accept her baby's death. She went back to the monastery to meet the Buddha and thanked the Buddha for curing not the baby, but her heart. What Buddha teaches us to see about life is that to see the suffering as universal. So next time when you go through a difficulty in your life, and the next time when you go through a hardship, painful feeling in life, understand that you are not all alone. There are so many people who is going through in life that's in the same situation, the suffering. Okay? Most of the time, we try to remove the suffering from life. We always wish that this suffering was not there in our life. Right? We go to sleep thinking that next day morning when we wake up, all these things will be a dream. All these problems will disappear. But the reality is, when there is suffering in life, there is suffering. So that the first thing that we need to do is that accept that there is suffering in life. So the whole point of realizing the first noble truth in Buddhism is to accept the suffering as it is, to see the suffering as it is. Only when you accept the suffering, we can cure it. We can find a remedy for it. First of all, you need to accept that there is pain and suffering in all of our lives, right? And then we can choose what to do with it. Most of the time, we spend a lot of time worrying about changing what we can't change, right? But it all depends on how you choose to react to these experiences in life. Most of the time, these painful feelings, sufferings that comes to our life are blessings in disguise, right? If we did not get difficult situations, if we did not get hardships to our life, right, challenges in our life, how can we develop a strong mindset, right? There's a saying that if you need to learn how to swim, what do you have to do? You have to jump to the pool. Somehow, you have to experience how drowning feels like. Only then you can realize that what should I do to learn how to swim, right? In the same way, there is no use of trying to avoid wishing and praying that suffering was not there in life, right? There's no point of wishing and praying that, please don't give me suffering. Always wish a mindset that you can face strongly to all these sufferings and painful situations in life. Whenever you get a strong mind to face any kind of challenge in your life, then you can be happy and in peace, because you're ready for anything in your life, right? So always wish a strong mindset that you can face any challenge, any difficult situation in life. So remember that not only bad things happen to good people, good things also happen to good people. And also, sometimes you may think, why all those good things happen to bad people, right? It is not always the case. Good things happen to bad people, and also bad thing happens to good people. That is the law of this world. So we all need to develop the mindset to see the suffering as a common truth to everyone, not a personal thing. So I wish you all, may all of you be able to develop a strong mindset to face any challenge in all of your life. Namo Buddhaya. To not to be too much happy when he wins, and to not to be too much sad when he loses. Now this king found out that his mind gets too much obsessed when he wins, and his mind gets too much obsessed when he defeats. So he gave this job to write down a quote on his sword to his mentor. So the mentor thought for a while, and he simply wrote down these amazing 4 words on his sword. It said, "This too shall pass." I'll repeat it again. This too shall pass. See, when we live in this world, there are worldly conditions that we have to experience in this world. The Buddha named these worldly conditions as 8 worldly conditions, Atta Loka Dhamma. In Dutiya Loka Dhamma Sutta, the Buddha explains this, that because the whole world revolves around 8 worldly conditions, and the 8 worldly conditions revolves around this world. What are these 8 worldly conditions? The Buddha explains that gain and loss is a worldly condition, and praise and blame is a worldly condition, and fame and disgrace is a worldly condition, and pleasure and pain is a worldly condition. So these are the worldly conditions that we go through and we experience in all of our lives. Now the problem is not having to go through these all worldly conditions. The problem behind this is our minds get too much obsessed with these worldly conditions. When we win, our minds get too much attached to it, and we forget that this victory won't last forever. And when we lose and when we defeat, when we fall down, our minds get too much obsessed with that defeat, and we think that this defeat, this sadness, this suffering will last forever. But in reality, all good things come to an end, and as well as all bad things come to an end. Nothing lasts forever. So how can we live by not being attached to this winning and losing, and not being attached to any kind of these worldly conditions? Now, Buddha shows us the way to not to be attached to any kind of these things. The way to do that is to simply understand the nature of all these conditions. What is the nature? The nature of all the worldly conditions is they are subjected to change. Right? When you win, it is subjected to change. When you lose, it is subjected to change. And it is impermanent. Simply, you can remind it to yourself that this too shall pass. Okay? When you hit the rock bottom, when you go through problems, when you go through difficulties in your life, just remember to yourself that this too shall pass. This pain, this suffering too shall pass. And when you win, and when you're happy, and when everyone cheers for you around you, always remember to yourself that this is not going to last forever. This too shall pass. That is one of my favorite quotes that I read recently. It says, when you win, you are not good as you think you are. And when you lose, you are not bad as you think you are. So when you win, everyone will cheer to you, everyone will congratulate you, everyone will say good things about you, but always remember, you are a man. You are a human. You are imperfect. And everything is subjected to change. Now, this does not say that you should not enjoy winning. You should not enjoy victory. You can enjoy victory. You can be happy about it. But simply understand this winning, this victory won't last forever. And when you lose, you have to remember to yourself that you are not bad as you think you are. You can learn from your mistakes, you can learn from your fails, and you can always improve yourself and always think that this is not going to last forever. This pain is not going to last forever. By simply understanding that everything is subjected to change, nothing is permanent in life, will help you to achieve a happier and more fulfilling life by not being attached to any kind of these extremes. When you win, do not be too much attached to it. And when you lose, do not be too much attached to it. Then you will be happy.
Imagine you're having a rough day and you're scrolling through social media. And you see these nice pictures, people are celebrating their life, having the best days in their life, celebrating and becoming happy. When you see these pictures, what do you feel inside? Sometimes we feel even more stressed and we feel like there's no value in our life. One of the biggest enemies of our happiness is comparing our life with others' lives. There is some sort of jealousy and envy that builds up in our life, in our mind. That is why becoming envious and jealousy and comparing our lives to others is one of the biggest enemies of our happiness. To overcome this, the Buddha introduced a special practice, and that is called mudita. Mudita means appreciative joyfulness. Always remember, when we compare our lives to others, and when you build up that jealousy and envy within yourself, it is not going to help in your success, in your life, right? Sometimes, like we stop in a certain place, okay? We hold on to one emotion and we stay in that envy and jealousy and thinking about other people's lives without making our life successful, without focusing on our life. So the Buddha said, when you see these successful people in the society, When people around you living the best days in their life and your life is not having such experience, always look up to them and think and wish the happiness of them. Okay? That is called appreciative joyfulness. Wish the happiness of beings around you, even though you are going through a tough time. When we see successful people, we should not be jealous at them. It is not going to help us. What we have to do, we have to wish the success on them. When you see someone is having the best days in their life, think of him and say, oh, may he be happy even more. May he have a prosperous and a happy life forever. If you do that, you're not going to give the space for that envy and unhappiness and that negativity in your mind. The more you practice this positive mindset, the more you practice this appreciative joyfulness, you can be happy about yourself. Even on the hard days, even though your life is in a tough place. So that is why whenever we see successful people, people having a happy life, we have to wish the happiness of them. That is called mudita. So when we practice this simple Buddhist practice of mudita or appreciative joyfulness, we can be happy about our life and also we can be peaceful within.
If there is one thing in common in this world that all living beings search for, that is the happiness. We all like to be happy. We all seek happiness in this world. If I ask from you, would you like to be happy in your life? What will be your answer? You will say, of course, I want to be happy in my life. I want this peaceful state. I need to be in that. That is your answer. That is the answer of all living beings. Buddha says that all living beings likes to be happy and they seek the happiness. If you really think about our life, we are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. Let me tell that again. We are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. That means we are pursuing happiness, we are chasing and we are seeking for happiness, but yet we have not found it. So, what is the reason for this not finding happiness? Why we don't find happiness in our life? We are seeking it, we are finding for it, but we don't find it. What is the reason? Well, the Buddha teaches us that we are finding or we are seeking this happiness from a source that the happiness does not exist. Because we are seeking happiness from external world. We are seeking happiness from these materialistic things. Well, when you seek happiness from materialistic things or external world, you get pleasure, but that is not happiness. Pleasure is something temporary and it gives you this instant gratification. But in happiness, the happiness is long-lasting and it gives you this happiness or the contentment about yourself. So that is why Buddha teaches us that you're finding the happiness from a source where the happiness does not exist. So the more you find it, the more you become frustrated. So, will we ever be able to find happiness in our life? The Buddha answers this question. He says, yes, you can find happiness in your life. How to do that? If you look closely to the first and the second verses of Dhammapada, Buddha says, if one with an impure mind speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him like a cart wheel following the ox. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him. And in the next verse, Buddha says, If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, the happiness will follow him like a shadow following a man. So that means the happiness and the sadness entirely depends on the purity and the impurity of our mind. When our mind is pure, we can find the happiness. So, how can we gain this purity in our mind in order to find the happiness? Well, Buddha teaches us there are a lot of things that you can do to make your mind pure. So today, I'm going to share with you a few things that can give you the happiness in your life, that you can find the happiness in your life. First thing, accepting the reality of life will give you the happiness. You know, life is full of ups and downs. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes we have bad days, sometimes we have beautiful memories, sometimes we also have miserable memories. So life is not something that is going equally every day. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. When you realize this reality, you can face these situations successfully, right? It is not always this bad experience makes us frustrated. It is our reaction towards this bad experience makes us frustrated. Whenever you get a bad experience or a bad day or a bad situation, tough situation, difficult situation, you have two choices. Either you can focus on the pain and feel miserable about that situation, or you can focus on the lesson that bad situation teaches us and learn from it and start growing your life. So, if you accept the reality of life, it is not temporary. Sometimes the people around us are not in our control. We cannot control their reactions. We cannot control their opinions. So when you realize these situations, you can face those situations successfully. That is one thing, accepting reality of the life. Number two, Buddha said, be generous. Practicing generosity is a major practice in Buddhism. Well, in Buddhism, the generosity is known as dana. In dana, Buddha says that you have to give without any expectations. We have to give and we have to dedicate towards others without expecting anything in return. That is one thing that we have to practice. Most of the time, we like to hold on to things or gather the things towards us. That is what people think. When you gather more, when you collect more things, you will get rich and you will gain happiness. But that does not give you the happiness. It will give you the pleasure, but it is temporary. So what we have to do, Buddha says, be generous, give, help others, dedicate a part of your life on behalf of others. When you do that, when you become more generous, let's say like this, you gave some foods to a poor person, let's say like that. When you see that person is having those foods and overcoming his hunger and making his life much better, you can be happy by seeing that. When you become happy like that, you feel happy about yourself, right? Nothing can give you that happiness. Like by eating a good food, by dressing a nice dress, you cannot gain that happiness. You don't feel happy about yourself, right? Let's say after hundred of years later, maybe 10 decades later, when you think about that incident, I gave this food to this poor person. When you remind that, you feel happy. Even then you feel happy. That means happiness is long-lasting. So Buddha says, be generous, help people, do something nice every day for a person. That is one thing we can do. And number 3, forgiving. Forgiving is one of the most important things that we can do to create happiness in our life. We have to forgive ourselves. Also, we have to forgive others too. Because forgiving, when you forgive, it doesn't mean that you are saying okay to others' mistakes. It's okay. No, you're not saying like that. When you forgive, you make your heart free. So when you forgive, it's not for that person, it is for you. And also we have to forgive for ourselves. There are so many mistakes that we all have done in the past. If you hold on to past, and if you make this present moment miserable, that will not give you the happiness. So what do we have to do? Whatever the bad thing that we have done in the past, we have to have this ability to forgive ourselves and start all over again. We all have that ability, right? We all have that privilege to start our life again and make it a better one. Okay? So no one is perfect in this world. We all have done mistakes. One thing that we have to do is to forgive and start doing good things. So these are 5 things that we can do to create happiness in our life. And also, there is one happiness that is called the ultimate happiness in this world that the Buddha teaches us. That is called Nibbana or Nirvana. That is the enlightenment. When you realize about the reality of this life, and when you remove this desire or the craving that arises within your mind, then Buddha says that is the ultimate happiness. Simply, the Nibbana means Ragakkayo, Dosakkayo, Mohakkayo, Nibbana. That means removing of the desire, anger, and the delusion of the mind is called the enlightenment. So that is the highest level of happiness that we all can reach. So when you practice these practices, right, when you engage yourself in wholesome state, that will create you the happiness in the life. So practice these things and make your life a happier one. Don't think that you don't have help. Don't think that no one is caring about you. The truth is, there are people who can help you and who are willing to help you. All you got to do is just step a little outside and seek for the help from correct people and from the correct places. So when the life throws challenges towards us, when there is tough times in life, we tend to think that we are the only person who is going through depression, anxiety, or stress or problems. But the truth is, if you see the world, there are millions and millions of people who are struggling and who are suffering in this life, right? We all struggle in our lives to live in this world, right? So it is not your suffering. It is not only my suffering. It is our suffering. We all are suffering in this world. The Buddha said, where there is birth, there is suffering. That is the reality. But we don't want to think about this suffering as something negative, right? It is not the suffering that makes us negative. It is the perspective that we are holding on to suffering makes us negative, right? So, today, I'm not here to talk about depression and how to quit the depression. Today, I'm going to share with you a simple Buddhist practice that can help you in healing these depressive thoughts or anxious thoughts or any kind of mental suffering that you're having. And this practice is called becoming mindful about your thoughts, right? Becoming mindful about your thoughts. In Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha explains this as Cittanupassana. So how can we practice becoming mindful about our thoughts? It is very simple, right? You can do this practice whenever you want or wherever you want. It is free. You totally have the freedom to do it, right? Here's how we can do this. And when we become mindful about our thoughts, what we are doing is we are not judging our thoughts, and also we are not trying to stop our thoughts, but we constantly become aware of what we are thinking, what comes to our mind. So all you got to do is you can sit down, or you can do this while walking, while traveling in the bus, or wherever you want. Just ask from yourself that, what am I thinking? Then you will come across with these thoughts, right? So what we have to do is, whenever you become depressed, whenever you feel anxious about yourself, whenever you feel sad about something, what you have to do is just notice it. Notice it as a thought. Because most of the time, we judge ourselves by thoughts. We are thinking about ourselves as our thoughts. But remember, you are not your thoughts. When you become more mindful, it gives you this ability to separate yourself from your thoughts, right? So we don't want to judge ourselves by our thoughts. What we are doing is we become mindful. We become more aware of our thoughts without judging. It is very simple. It's like this. It's like you're watching a traffic pass by sitting beside the road. You can see cars are going, you can see bikes are going, vans, buses, cargo carriers. There are so many vehicles that are going. All you're doing is you're just watching them. You're just noticing them, right? But most of the time what happens is we become more afraid about these vehicles, and we try to jump into the middle of the road, and we are trying to stop these things, right? That is what you are doing. That is what we are doing when we become depressed or sad. When these sad and depressed thoughts haunt our mind, what we are doing is we are trying to fight it. We are trying to suppress them. We are trying to stop them. The more you try to stop these thoughts, it will come again and again. Remember that. So all you got to do is, we are not going to fight them. We are not going to stop them. We are noticing them, right? You can do this. Just ask this simple question from you. What am I thinking? Then you will find that, oh, my thoughts are depressed. It is not me that is depressed. My thoughts are depressed, right? So what is the nature of a thought? It will come and it will stay for a while in your mind, and it will fade away. That is the nature of the thought. So it is just a thought. That means you are not the depression, you are not the anxiety, and you are not the stress. Remember, if you feel hopeless, if you feel that you are not good enough, don't believe what your mind always says. You are more capable than you think. You are more good than you think, right? So what is holding back us is this little frame that we are having inside our mind, that I am not good enough. I cannot do these things. I am not capable of doing these things. I am hopeless. No one is going to help me. If you change that mindset one day, remember, you can do better and you can do more than you think. So please, don't think that you are not good enough. I repeat again that you are more capable of doing things more than you think, right? So believe in it and work for it. So if you are going through painful situations, and if you are having painful memories about yourself, don't run away from them. Don't be afraid of them. Remember, pain is a part of growing, right? If you want to grow, sometimes you have to go through pain. Most of the time you have to go through pain. So if you practice these mindful exercises, and if you seek for the help, and if you do this proper medication for your mental suffering, then one day for sure you are going to be okay. You are going to be happy in your life. And this is the best part of recovering from these traumatic and painful situations. What is that? You can help someone who is in the same place as you were. You can say that do these things, practice these things, think like this, because I know the pain that you are going through, because I was a person like you. But I am recovered now. You also can recover yourself. So you can inspire others and you can help others. And then you will find the real value of your life. So please do not think that you are not good enough. You're more than enough than you think. So remember these things and practice these things in your life. And I wish you all, may all of you find the real happiness in your life.
From today's video, let's discuss about how can we deal with anxiety and what to do when our mind becomes anxious, right? We all know that how it is painful when our mind becomes anxious and when we become afraid of the things that will happen in the future, or when the mind creates all these scenarios in our head about the things that will happen in the future, right? So how can we deal with this state of mind? There are a few things that we can do, right? But most of the time, when we become anxious, what happens is we become panicked and we take decisions that may not be the correct decision to take. Okay, so today I'm going to be sharing with you few things and few advices that I have given and that helped me a lot personally to deal with this anxiety. So the first thing that you have to do is, first, you have to be aware of your mental state, right? If you're anxious, if you're afraid of something, the first thing is to be aware of it and to accept it, right? Most of the time, we pretend not to be anxious. We pretend not to be fearful about the future, and we try to reject that state of our mind. The more we reject, the more it persists in our mind. So that is why the first step is to acknowledge and accept your current state of your mind. If you're anxious, just say to yourself, okay, now my thoughts are in anxiety mode. Right? My thoughts are anxious. I am fearing about certain things. Acceptance will help you to catch the thought and to be more aware of it. And also, when you accept it, it creates less pain, right? Acceptance is the first step of healing. So the first step is to accept your current mental state. And the second step is, this is amazing. Once you understand the current state of your mind, what you have to do, the biggest advice that I have given about anxiety is do one thing at a time, right? Take one action at a time, right? We all know that when we have a lot to do, right? When we have many jobs to do, what happens? We start thinking about everything. Right? We started loading these thoughts into our mind every time, and we try to do all at once. But in reality, we can't do all at once, right? One thing that we can do is we can take one job, one action at a time and do that, right? So how to do this? First of all, to clarify your thoughts and to be clear about what you have to do and what you can do and cannot do, first, sit down in a quiet place, take a piece of paper and write down all the things that you are fearing about, and write down all the things about the current situation that you are in. And also, most importantly, you have to write down the things that are in your control and things that are out of your control. When you clarify these things, you can take actions upon the things that are under your control. So one thing that you can do is sit down, write down all the thoughts, write down current situation of your life, and write down all the things that are under your control and not under your control, so that you're very clear about what to do and what not to do, right? So when you clarify that and take one action, just one action, and what you have to do, just execute that action, right? Don't try to do all the things, just pick one action and do it at one. It's something like this, right? Something like you're grabbing a bunch of oranges, right? What will happen if you try to grab a bunch of oranges at once? You can't grab all of them, right? It will fall, they will fall. So one thing that you can do is pick a basket, take one orange at a time and put it into the basket. In that way, you can grab many oranges. In the same way, when you clarify your thoughts and take one action at a time and execute it, then it will be clear in your mind and it will ease up your mental state. So do one thing at a time. And the third step is to do it slowly and deliberately, right? Even when you become clarified about what to do, don't be anxious, don't be panicked. What do you have to do? Do it slowly, right? One thing that a lot of meditation masters teach is that when you're anxious, do something slowly, right? Slow down. When your body becomes slow down, your mind becomes slow down. That's the connection between the body and our mind. When our mind is slow, our body is slow. When our body is slow, our mind is slow. So do things, take that action and do it slowly and deliberately. Do it with proper consciousness, proper awareness and proper mindfulness. That's so that you feel what you're doing. Then you understand what you're doing, right? So in that way, you can ease up this anxiety. And the last thing that you have to do is do it completely, right? Complete the action. When we are anxious about certain things, what we do, we don't complete that action, right? We just hang over that problem or that task and we don't complete it, right? One thing that you have to do is do it completely, right? Complete your action, do it slowly, deliberately, and finally complete that action so that that step is finished, right? And then once you complete that action, what do you have to do? Take the next step and do it slowly, deliberately, and completely. In that way, you can clarify what you have to do, and also you will get a good time to take good decisions. So this is a little way and a tiny practice that you can add to your life to ease up your pain of anxiety. And whenever you are anxious about certain things, try this and it will ease up your pain of anxiety. So keep this little advice in your mind and be happy.